Part 54. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 531. Haha, Taoist Master Wang Ye is angry. There are risks in bragging. You need to be careful when pretending. Taoist Master Wang Ye has been practicing Kimon's art. He seems to be unable to wake up. He is not interested in anything. It is rare to see him in mood. Su Yang is miserable. He will probably be beaten to death when he meets Taoist priest Wang Ye. After hearing Wang Ye's words, many spectators immediately started talking and looked at Su Yang with pity. Su Yang spread his hands and smiled, not taking Wang Ye's threat to heart. Next, the 20-10 game begins. This round, Su Yang had a bye, so he could take the opportunity to see the trump cards of these geniuses. The first match is Wudan Wanjai vs Gonggashan Shamasai. At this moment, Shamasai has already appeared on the ring, facing Wang Ye from a distance. She was still wearing a white dress, and her skirt was fluttering in the wind. Shamasai did not wear a veil, and her beautiful face was exposed to the public. Her delicate facial features attracted all the attention. It is worth mentioning that after Wang Ye let go of the harsh words with Su Yang, he returned to his previous state. He was wearing a loose robe, sleepy, even a little hunched over, and looked listless. As the on-site referee spoke, the game officially began. Wang Ye yawned and urged, "Let's do it, finish it quickly, I'm going back to catch up on my sleep." "Haha, Taoist Wang Ye, are you too trusting?" Shamasai said with a soft smile. Her voice is very nice, especially Yuja. As soon as she opened her mouth, she immediately attracted a large number of old perverts who cheered for her. Tota. Wang Ye shook his head and said, "No, you are no match for me, so don't waste your time." Hee hee. The smile on Shamasai's face stopped abruptly and was replaced by a solemn look. "You won't know until you beat him to see if he is your opponent." Whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Shamasai flew towards Wang Ye very fast, almost turning into a white light. She knew Wang Ye's strength and was recognized as the strongest, so she didn't hide her clumsiness from the beginning and used all her strength in her attack. With Shamasai's speed and strength, ordinary mid-level Shen sect enemies would not be able to dodge or compete with him. Seeing that his palm was getting closer and closer to Wang Ye, Shamasai concluded that Wang Ye could not avoid it, so he couldn't help but sneer, "Wudan Wang Ye, that's all." But soon, Shamasai's expression changed drastically. Because just when she was about to hit Wang Ye's figure suddenly disappeared. "I told you, you are no match for me." The next moment, Wang Ye appeared behind Shamasai and said in a calm tone. Snort. Although he was horrified, Shamasai did not admit defeat, quickly turned around and launched another attack. The result was exactly the same as before. Shamasai couldn't even touch Wang Ye's Taoist robe. Next, Shamasai attacked continuously, but Wang Ye dodged them all. After a battle, Shamasai discovered that Wang Ye was not moving very fast. But it was as if he knew the direction of his attack in advance and could quietly avoid it every time. The Prophet. This method is too terrifying. Let's finish it. At this time, Wang Ye said lightly, and the next moment he suddenly took action and slapped Shamasai with his palm. But Shamasai was able to advance to the top 20. Naturally, he was not a vegetarian. His figure was almost at its extreme, leaving a shadow in place, and narrowly escaped Wang Ye's first attack. Subsequently, Shamasai appeared 5 meters away, breathing heavily, with a layer of sweat on his forehead. Wudan Wang Ye is unfathomable. At this time, Shamasai had blood stains on the corners of his mouth and his face was slightly pale. "Su Yang, I'm waiting for you to trample me under your feet." Wang Ye, on the other hand, stood in the Gen position of the Bagua array, with a smile on his lips. "In the Bagua array, everything is under my control, and you have nowhere to hide. Shamasai wiped the sweat from his forehead, met Wang Ye's gaze, gritted his teeth and said, I wonder if I can get an advantage from the Taoist master with the shadow step. Wang Ye's victory did not cause much sensation. After all, in the eyes of everyone, he was bound to win. Boom. After the competition between Wudane Wanjai and Gongashan Shamashai ended, the Beizong martial arts competition continued, and the on-site referee loudly said. In the audience, Su Yang smiled softly and said, he has been planning it from the beginning. The moment Shamasai stepped onto the ring, he was already destined to lose. 1, 2, 3, dozens of white figures appeared on the ring at the same time. Wang Ye stood there and smiled softly, however, you can force me to use some means. The winner is Wudane Wang Ye. Seeing this, the referee loudly announced the result of the competition. Is this the magic of Tianjimen? It's a good trick. I lost. Very strong. With that said, Wang Ye stood in the Bagua array, raised his hand and waved lightly, and a terrifying force shot out towards the 3 o'clock direction. After saying that, Shamasai jumped up, and there were many after-images around the ring. In an instant, a Bagua formation suddenly appeared and enveloped the entire arena. The next moment, the after-image of the scene disappeared, and then Shamasai was seen falling under the ring. If you can let me use the Bagua formation, you can return to Ganga Mountain and give an explanation to your elders. The movement technique just now is her strongest trump card. It is unpredictable and requires a lot of energy to be used once. The Taoist master has great eyesight. Then, Wang Ye glanced at Su Yang and disappeared into the crowd. In the second competition, Wang Fuegui vs Huang Yinhu, 2 contestants are invited to enter. The shadow step is the secret skill of Ganga Mountain. Naturally, I have to be in awe of it, but you haven't practiced it to a great extent, so you can't get any advantage. Shamasai looked at Wang Ye's back, muttered to himself in a taboo manner, and then left the scene. Shamasai stood up, and did not become angry. Instead, he openly admitted his defeat, and then asked doubtfully, I dare to ask, sir, is this your strongest method? After finishing his words, Wang Ye formed a seal with his hands and lightly stepped on the ground. Buzz. Wang Ye missed his hand and stood there for a moment, then showed a smile, haha, yes, you can perform a move in my hand. You are proud enough. This year's 100 sex martial arts competition is indeed unusual. This is a tribute gas hand secret skill, the shadow step, right? Wang Ye dispersed the Bagua array and did not answer. Instead, he yawned and walked straight down the ring. Obviously, Wang Ye's blow just now hit her real body and injured her. The 8 trigrams formation of the Kimen technique uses the entire arena as the base and itself as the variable to control the entire arena. It is indeed impressive. And these are just after images, only one of them is Shamasai's true body. Su Yang continued, however, if this is all he has, he is not qualified to fight me. I hope he can give me a surprise. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 532. Young Master Su, it's my turn, just take a look at what Yinhu is, I will beat him into a little cat. Wang Fuegui had been waiting nearby for a long time. After hearing the referee's voice and saying hello to Su Yang, he took the Suana and walked onto the ring excitedly. On the other side, Huang Yinhu also appeared on the middle stage under the spotlight. In this way, Wang Fuegui and Huang Yinhu were 4 or 5 meters apart, with their eyes facing each other. As the on-site referee stepped down from the ring, the competition began. Neither of them said anything nonsense. Huang Yinhu took the lead in attacking, rising into the air, wrapping his legs with qi, and kicked Wang Fuegui. Wang Fuegui did not hesitate. He held a Suana and used some Sara swordsmanship to easily resolve Huang Yinhu's attack. But Huang Yinhu is not a simple character. He can defeat 40 or 50 geniuses and successfully advance to the top 20. He is naturally outstanding. I saw that his attack speed was getting faster and faster, and after images gradually appeared on his legs. Wang Fugui did not dare to be careless and used the Suana instead of the long sword. The majestic sword intent swept across all directions, which was quite manageable. Just like that, the two of them started fighting. The real energy was everywhere and the sword intent was raging. The fight was inseparable for a while, and it was difficult to tell the winner. Huang Yinhu, the successor of Foshan Wuiying Jiao, is in the middle stage of Shenzong. No wonder he can advance to the top 20. It is said that the shadowless kick and the shadow step of Ganga Mountain are similar. They are both top-notch skills. I'm afraid Wang Fugui is in danger. This is not necessarily true. Wang Fugui is a cultivator, and I heard that he has already reached the 9th level of Qi refining. A cultivator at this level can definitely compete with those in the early or even middle stages of the Shen section. More than that, I heard the old man in the sect said that as soon as a cultivator enters the foundation building, he can compete with the land martial god. The 9th level of Qi training and the foundation building are only one step away. Therefore, if we compare with the ancient martial arts system, the disparity will be relatively large. Some of the 9th level of Qi training can be as good as the early stage of Shenzong, while some of the 9th level of Qi training can obliterate the later stage of Shenzong, or even the peak of Shenzong. Realm and other things are just a way of saying it. It mainly depends on combat effectiveness. In the ancient martial arts system alone, there are examples of Shenzong's early stage crushing Shenzong's peak, but they are rare. Both the ancient martial arts system and the cultivation system actually have strong people, but in the long run, the ancient martial arts system is definitely not as good as the cultivation system. Yes, in the ancient martial arts system, there is no realm beyond the terrestrial martial gods. The ancient warriors have no way to go, but for cultivators, there is a way to go. And if there is a chance to gain immortality, naturally many people are eager to practice cultivation. Hey, it would be great if the ancient warriors could also extend their lifespan. On top of the land martial gods, there are several great realms. In this case, who would give up their true energy and turn to cultivation? Since Wang Fugui is a cultivator and Huang Yinhu is an ancient martial artist, the competition between the two caused everyone at the scene to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of ancient martial arts and cultivation. Foshan shadowless feet. Su Yang glanced at Huang Yinhu, then smiled softly and said, "This man is not weak, but it is a pity that his opponent is young Master Wang. With young Master Wang's current strength, we can win with a little effort." The game has just begun, and Su Yang has already guessed the final outcome. Dad. At this moment, Su Yuyu, accompanied by Zhang Honggaiu, appeared at the Beizong martial arts competition, trotting all the way into Su Yang's arms. Su Yang opened his arms, hugged Su Yuyu directly, and asked dotingly, "Yuyu, how are you feeling today? Does the injury on your body still hurt?" "It doesn't hurt, thank you, Dad." Su Yuyu hugged Su Yang's neck tightly, her little face lay on Su Yang's chest, and she smiled happily. "Dad, Yuyu is playing the game, have you seen the video?" "Yeah, I saw it." "Yuyu is awesome." Su Yang smiled softly and said, "But don't do this next time. It's too dangerous." "Know it?" Su Yuyu stuck out her tongue, nodded obediently, and then asked curiously, "Dad, I heard from Grandpa Zhang that you have a competition today, have you advanced?" "Of course I advanced." Su Yang smiled and said, "Your father and I are luckier. We got a bye and now we are locked in the top 10. "Yeah, Dad is so awesome," Su Yuyu smiled happily. "A loser who can only hide behind women, what qualifications do you have to threaten me? It's just good luck. You can advance directly without fighting. What's so great about that?" Wang Fugui narrowly won, and finally punished Huang Yinhu with his fierce and majestic sword power. Su Yang, if you have a chance, I'll see you in the ring. Then I will make sure that you can neither survive nor die. At this moment, Amodeo, who was waiting for the competition, came over and said with a familiar smile. Hearing this, the smile on Amodeo's face froze, and he stood there feeling slightly embarrassed. But at this moment, Wang Konggyun, who was on the high seat, noticed this scene, shook his head and reminded, "Don't be impulsive. If you kill someone outside the ring, you will be disqualified from the competition." In response, Su Yang just smiled lightly and did not take his threat seriously at all. After hearing this, Su Yang's murderous intention dissipated. He was not angry, but he breathed a sigh of relief and smiled, "It doesn't matter who heals you. I feel relieved to see that you are fine." "Well, I understand." Su Yang. Su Yang was very satisfied with his daughter's praise and raised his hand to scratch the bridge of his daughter's nose. Shijushan, the land of Feng Chen, fights against Lin Yuan from a small border town. "Damn. Go away, I don't want you to heal me." Su Yuya glanced at Amodeo, her eyes full of disgust. Su Yang nodded, then his eyes fell on Amodeo, and said coldly, "Amodeo, stay away from my family. Don't let me see you approaching them again, otherwise the consequences will be serious." Snort. In this way, the competition between the two ended, and then the third round of competition began. Amodeo said coldly, "If Schwer hadn't protected you in the past 2 days, you would have been destroyed by me." He clearly had the chance to kill Huang Yinhu, but he spared Huang Yinhu's life. "Yuyo, your injury healed so quickly. I wanted to treat you after today's matter is over, but it seems I won't need it now." Huang Yinhu was not someone who couldn't afford to lose. He was even a cheerful and open-minded man. He thanked Wang Fuegui on the spot for not killing him, and stated that he would repay Wang Fuegui if he had the opportunity in the future. "People around? You don't know. I was worried to death when I found out you were injured. Fortunately, Ji Ren has his own destiny." Cut. But Su Yang wanted to dominate this change, and he also wanted to become the leader of the Gwu Alliance so that he could settle accounts with the sects who destroyed the Kunlun Su family. Su Yuya curled her lips and was too lazy to talk to Amodeo. Instead, she whispered to Su Yang, "Dad, this man has bad intentions. He is pursuing Mother. You must not let him go." Therefore, Su Yang wants to win the first place in the 100 Sects martial arts competition, so he is unwilling to violate the rules. Although he doesn't know what kind of changes will happen to the ancient martial arts world after the 100 Sects convene. After more than an hour of fierce fighting, the winner was finally decided between Wang Fuegui and Huang Yinhu. Su Yang was too lazy to talk nonsense with Amodeo. He snorted coldly and started to kill this person. "Haha, Su Yang, do you think I'm afraid of you?" After leaving a word, Amodeo walked to the other side with a sneer. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 533. This competition is full of highlights. Upon hearing the names of the two contestants, everyone at the scene became excited and stared at the ring. First, Shijushan's reputation has long been known among ancient warriors. Taishan's magical power is so powerful that it naturally attracted much attention. Some people speculate that if Shijushan uses Taishan's magical power, he can at least be comparable to the level of geniuses such as Wudane Wanya and Fozawuji in a short time. But no one knows the real situation, and no one has even seen what Shijushan looks like when he performs the Taishan magic technique. As for the other contestant, Lin Yuan, he actually forced Mr. Amodeo, who was deep in the clouds, to admit defeat in the last round of the competition. He can be called the biggest dark horse in this year's 100 Sects competition. The battle between these two people naturally became a hot topic. At this moment, Shi Jushin walked onto the ring unhurriedly, but Lin Yuan did not appear. "Lin Yuan, please come on stage," the referee shouted Lin Yuan's name again. "Lin Yuan." When Su Yang heard this, he immediately cheered up and frowned. "Isn't this the old poison's current name? Could it be, it's really him?" Just when Su Yang was guessing, a boy about 14 years old had already appeared on the ring. The young man with starry eyes and sharp eyebrows, dressed in black robe and full of evil aura, is none other than the old poisonous man Lin Yuan. Unexpectedly, this old guy actually gave up on the ancient martial arts system, actually practiced the cultivation techniques I gave him, and even took half a step to build the foundation. Su Yang stared at Lin Yuan from a distance and murmured to himself, "The earth's spiritual energy is thin. In such a short period of time, he has set foot in this realm. It seems that he must have a treasure containing spiritual energy in his body. Half step to build the foundation. I have been practicing hard for a month or two, but I am only at the 9th level of Qi training, but he has half step to build the foundation. It's really fucked up." Su Yang sneered, but turned around and sneered, "Haha, it's a pity that he advanced too quickly and his foundation is unstable. He can easily go crazy. When the time comes, his realm will completely collapse, and the gain will not be worth the loss. In addition, the skills I gave him are rubbish among rubbish, and they are not vulnerable at all." Su Yang secretly said, "With the 9th level of Qi training, I can completely crush him. Even if he has a trump card, I am afraid, because no matter how strong his trump card is, it cannot be stronger than the Void Tower. Haha, if he hadn't embarked on the path of cultivation, maybe I would still be a little more wary of him, but now, he can only be manipulated by me." When Su Yang looked at Lin Yuan was also looking at Su Yang, with a playful smile on his lips. He could see Su Yang's level and was at the 9th level of Qi training, so he decided that Su Yang was no match for him. At this time, Shi Jushin on the stage said calmly, "Lin Yuan, your opponent is me, what do you want my cousin to do?" "Haha, I met an old friend and just wanted to say hello." Lin Yuan withdrew his gaze, dealt with it casually, and then said, "Master Shi, let's get started." Shi Jushin nodded, and then mobilized his true energy to prepare to face Lin Yuan. "Master Shi, you should just use the Taishan divine art. With your current strength in the early stages of the Shen sect, you cannot be my opponent." But Lin Yuan said, "Only by using Mount Tai's magical power can you be qualified to be my opponent." "Haha, that's not a small tone." Shi Jushin's eyes flashed, and he said coldly, "However, I want to see first whether you are worthy of my use of the Taishan magic technique." As soon as the words fell, Shi Jushin's palms were filled with true energy, and he jumped out and rushed towards Lin Yuan. "Don't overestimate your capabilities." Lin Yuan showed a sneer, then raised his hand slightly, and a black mist appeared out of thin air, covering his body like a layer of indestructible armor. Immediately afterwards, Lin Yuan took the initiative and faced Shi Jushin. Boom! 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 In an instant, the two of them fought hard for 3 rounds. After that, Lin Yuan stood still and did not move, while Shi Jushin took a few steps back, and there was even blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. It was obvious that Shi Jushin was at a disadvantage and was not Lin Yuan's opponent. Buzz! This scene shocked everyone present. Lin Yuan is too strong. He actually injured Shi Jushin. It's unbelievable. Although Shi Jushin has not used his secret skills, his strength cannot be underestimated. When he was still at the peak of Tianzone the day before yesterday, he could leapfrog and defeat the middle stage of Shenzone. Now that he has entered the early stage of Shenzone, he must be stronger, but he is not Lin Yuan's opponent. What is the origin of this Lin Yuan? It's so terrifying. I'm afraid Shi Jushin is going to fall into trouble. Impossible, Taishan's magical power is mysterious and unpredictable. If Shi Jushin uses Taishan's magical power, he will definitely be able to defeat Lin Yuan. Why do I think the black poisonous mist on Lin Yuan's body is somewhat similar to the depth of the cloud and mist? Could it be that he came from the depth of the cloud and mist? Lin Yuan did not use his spiritual energy unless he had to. He did not want to expose himself as a cultivator. Therefore, in these two battles, he has always used the methods of Yun Mist. The martial arts in the depths of the cloud and mist are rather unique and do not rely on true energy. Zhou Shen's poisonous mist has been cultivated since childhood and will always accompany him. Therefore, even if he loses all his energy, he can still mobilize the poisonous mist as an attack method. Zhu Juezi's poisonous mist, which has been cultivated for hundreds of years, is naturally not comparable to Mo Dao, so he crushed Mo Dao the day before yesterday. However, because there is no true energy to rely on, the power of the poisonous mist has weakened a lot, and it cannot be compared with the real strong. Not to mention the land martial god, if he uses poisonous mist alone, he might be able to defeat him at the peak of Shenzong. But the poisonous mist is more than enough to deal with the geniuses participating in the 100 sex martial arts competition. If Shi Jushin doesn't use Taishan's magical skills, Lin Yuan is confident that he can defeat Shi Jushin in less than 50 rounds. At this moment, some of the big bosses on the high seats have figured out the identity of the old poisonous man. I didn't expect Zhu Juezi to sign up for the 100 sex martial arts competition. Isn't this old poisonous bully a young genius? Wan Kongyun said through gritted teeth. But there is no true energy fluctuation in Zhu Juezi's body. Now he is a cultivator. Abbot Yuantong next to him said. Cultivator? Wan Kongyun asked in confusion. He is actually willing to give up his martial arts cultivation. Wait, where did he get the cultivation technique from, and what state is he in now? I don't know. Maybe you can ask the head of the Ximen family about this question. Abbot Yuantong asked the question to Ximen Fenjiun. Where did he get the technique from? I don't know. Now Zhu Juezi has already taken half a step to build the foundation. Ximen Fenjiun smiled softly and said, even if he doesn't use cultivation methods, the poisonous mist on his body is not something Shi Jushin can contend with, unless Shi Jushin uses the Taishan magic skill. Having said this, Ximen Fenjiun's eyes fell on Shi Hehan, with a playful smile on his face, and then said, Shi Hehan, I am afraid that the genius of the land of Zen will stop here. Snored. Before the results come out, everyone has the possibility of advancement. Ximen Fenjiun, you said it too early. Shi Hehan responded coldly, then looked at Shi Jushin and said, Jushin, this Lin Yuan has a great origin, don't hide your clumsiness. Yes. Shi Jushin on the stage, after hearing his grandfather's reminder, wiped the blood stains on his face, stared at Lin Yuan, and slowly spit out 4 words, Taishan, magic power. Next moment, Shi Jushin's whole body was exuding terrifying fluctuations, like substantial golden gas, which was constantly emitting from his body. At the same time, his body was undergoing earth-shaking changes, gradually getting bigger. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 534. Taishan Magic. Shi Jushin couldn't withstand the pressure from Lin Yuan, and finally used his ultimate trump card. At this moment, Shi Jushin's whole body was shining with golden light, and his body shape was like an inflating balloon, constantly expanding. The original height of about 1.8 meters gradually became 2 meters, 2.5 meters, 3 meters. This method breaks one's own limitations, which is really weird. What's exaggerated is that Shi Jushin's body keeps getting bigger, 3 to 5 meters, 4 meters. Eventually, Shi Jushin's height reached 8 meters before he stopped growing. Now, he is like a giant. Now on the ring, he is as big as a hill. Nature. All parts of Shi Jushin's body have also expanded in proportion. The diameter of his arms was originally about 10 centimeters, but now it is 30 or 40 centimeters. After performing the Taishan magic skill, he became a golden giant, standing tall and looking down on all living beings. Damn it, isn't this the doubling technique of Naruto's Autumn Road clan? What doubling technique? Can you please watch less anime? This is obviously a unique skill in the land of Zen. This is the magic power of Mount Tai. The body has expanded so many times. It's so shocking. I heard that after using the Taishan magic skill, the body will be invulnerable to invulnerability, water and fire, and the strength will increase many times, and the power will be infinite. I don't know if it is true or not. I didn't come here in vain today. I'm lucky enough to see the magical power of Mount Tai, ha ha ha. Ahem, well, I have a brother who often feels inferior because of his short body parts. He asked me to help him ask where he learned this Taishan magic skill. Is it a rumor? Is there a possibility that this friend you are talking about is yourself? Let me tell you, I am really happy to be Mr. Shi's girlfriend. What woman wouldn't love such a big body? Everyone in the audience was talking a lot, mentioning some obscure topics, and the female prodigy at the scene suddenly blushed. Is this the Taishan magic skill? It is indeed not weak. Not far away, Su Yang looked at Shijushin, whose body had grown 3 or 4 times. He saw through the mystery of Taishan's magic power at a glance, and said to himself, no wonder Taishan's magic power is not more than 100 and cannot be used too many times. It is supposed to squeeze the body's muscle energy. The human body's muscle energy is very mysterious, and many injuries can be restored automatically. You can use Taishan's magical power to increase your body's size. This kind of loss is difficult to heal on your own. For example, it is like a balloon, inflated with a pump. After the first inflation, the balloon becomes larger, and after deflation, the balloon returns to its original shape. But this balloon is no longer the original balloon. If you do it a second time, a third time, a fourth time, over time, even if the air in the balloon is exhausted, it will be difficult to become the same again. The same goes for the human body. After being multiplied countless times, the fundamental damage is done and cannot be restored. This is the reason why Taishan's magical power is not more than 100. However, nothing is absolute. Since the body's muscle energy cannot heal itself, there are some methods that can be used to help muscle energy recover. In fact, this is the reason why Su Yang's blood sacrifice technique uses some elixirs to replenish qi and blood. Presumably, people in the land of Zen couldn't find a way to repair their body's muscle strength. Coupled with the experience of previous generations, they came to the conclusion that Taishan's magic power was not more than 100. In fact, this is indeed the case. Throughout the ages, several Taishan old men who practiced Taishan magic have all died in the 100th practice of Taishan magic. You dare to practice such secret skills without knowing how to repair your body's muscles. The people in Taishan are really a bunch of fools. Su Yang couldn't help but sneer. In his previous life, he was the Xiantian immortal emperor. He was proficient in the art of alchemy and was naturally familiar with pharmacology. Su Yang does have a method that can heal the damage to the body's muscle energy and allow people to use Taishan magical skills without restrictions. However, the relationship between him and Taishan is not very good at the moment, so he plans to quietly be a melon eater. As for Shijushin, his eldest cousin treats him well. If there is a chance, he can repair it for him, and forget about the others in Taishan. Taishan magic is my strongest trump card. I originally planned to expose it when I met Wanya and Wuji, but I didn't expect you to force it out. At this time, the golden Shijushin was nearly 8 meters tall, looking down at Lin Yuan below, and said in a loud voice, Lin Yuan, now, let me see your strength. After the words fell, Shijushin raised his fist and suddenly rushed towards Lin Yuan. Although his body has grown larger, almost as tall as a 2-story building, this does not affect his speed at all. In an instant, Shi Jushin appeared in front of Lin Yuan, and hit Lin Yuan hard with his huge golden fist. Lin Yuan did not dare to be careless, his figure flashed and he quickly escaped, leaving only an afterimage in the place. Good. It is said that the more thoroughly you understand Taishan's magical skills, the more your body will multiply. Lin Yuan stood in the distance and smiled softly. I have seen Shi Han use Taishan magic to directly multiply his body 10 times. Compared with him, there is still a big gap. Snort. Shi Jushin's voice was reverberated. My grandfather is naturally stronger than me, but with my current strength, it's enough to deal with you. This is the first time I have used Taishan magical skills since I was promoted to Shenzone. I can't control my own power. Lin Yuan, it's too late for you to admit defeat now. Shi Jushin kindly reminded, otherwise, I will blow you into powder with one punch. Haha, Mr. Shi, I said before that with your current strength, you are definitely no match for me unless you use the Taishan magic technique. Lin Yuan smiled playfully. Actually, I didn't finish the second half of the sentence. Even if you use Taishan's magical power, you are still no match for me. You can just force me to use some methods. Arrogant. My punch has the power of 1,000 caddies, and the wind of the punch stirs the surroundings. You can't dodge it, you can't avoid it. Since you don't know how to show appreciation, don't blame me for being rude, just give me a punch. Shi Jushin's eyes flashed, then he raised his fist again, ran a few steps quickly, then flew into the air and slammed into Lin Yuan fiercely. His body was too big. Shi Jushin, who weighed more than 1,000 kilograms, was running on the ring, so much so that the ground was shaking. The ring was crumbling and it was about to collapse. Unfortunately, Shi Jushin's punch did not hit Lin Yuan, but hit the ring. Immediately afterwards, Shi Jushin's body also fell to the ground, and the fist wind was like a small tornado. Boom! Along with a loud noise, the good arena fell into pieces in an instant. Fuck, it's so fierce. It's so scary. It's full of power just looking at it. Who can handle this? Lin Yuanlu is timid and keeps avoiding me. What's the point of this? He can't hide for too long. Shi Jushin's fist wind is very powerful. Lin Yuan has been injured by the fist wind. If he is not careful next time, he may be blown to pieces. Someone at the scene saw a trace of blood spilling from the corner of Lin Yuan's mouth. It was obvious that he had been injured by Shi Jushin's fist. The arena has been destroyed, but it has no impact. Please continue fighting on top of the ruins at this moment, the on-site referee said. When Shi Jushin heard this, he naturally did not hesitate, a smile appeared on his lips, and he planned to pursue the victory. Haha, Taishan's magical power is as strong as ever. It seems that I can't do it without using spiritual energy. When Lin Yuan saw this, he didn't panic. Instead, he smiled softly, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and then became serious. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 535. Lin Yuan knew very well that facing Shi Jushin in this state, he could not underestimate the enemy, otherwise he might not be able to win. After making up his mind, Lin Yuan made a secret with both hands and used his own cultivation method. Buzz. The next moment, billowing black mist surged out of his body, and at the same time, majestic spiritual energy fluctuations emerged around him. These black mists, to be precise, come from the 100 poison flags. Su Yang only taught Lao Tuo the cultivation techniques, but not the secret techniques. But Lin Yuan got some inheritance from the Beidou banner, and he has gained some understanding these days. I saw his hands changing the kneading skills, and the black mist around him in mid-air. In an instant, the black mist formed a huge shadow. This phantom was suspended behind Lin Yuan. It was composed of the poisonous gas in the 100 poison flags, as if it had substance. The image of the phantom is Lin Yuan himself, but it has been magnified nearly 10 times, and it looks bigger than the golden Shijushin. Compared with this phantom, the 8-meter tall Shijushin is just a baby. What kind of method is this? Lin Yuan has become bigger. This mist shadow is interesting. As Shijushin gets bigger, he also gets bigger. Do you want to use magic to defeat magic? The black mist that suddenly appeared is too strong. It is not at the same level as what Lin Yuan emitted before. Aura, there are fluctuations of spiritual energy on Lin Yuan's body. Could it be that he is also a cultivator? Are cultivators so cheap now? Why do you feel that there are cultivators everywhere? Among the melon-eating crowd in the audience, there were inevitably some experts. They could tell at a glance that Lin Yuan was a cultivator, and everyone immediately exclaimed, "My eldest cousin is going to lose." When Su Yang saw this scene, he shook his head and said with a playful smile, "This Lin Yuan can summon such a powerful black mist. He must have a treasure on him. I can take it away if I find an opportunity." For a moment, Su Yang had thoughts. Now, Su Yang controls Wu Dang's chain formations, and he is the king here. If all the formations are activated, the life and death of everyone here today will be in Su Yang's hands. However, as mentioned before, the spiritual stones that maintain the formation have been around for too long, the spiritual energy has been lost too much, and Su Yang does not have enough spiritual stones to replenish it, so he can only start a series of formations in an all-round way. Su Yang didn't want to use this opportunity rashly, but it was easy to deal with Lin Yuan. Even without the use of formations, he was sure to defeat Lin Yuan just by relying on hard power. Clang! While Su Yang was thinking about this, Lin Yuan controlled the shadow behind him and followed Shijushin's attack. The huge shadow also punched and collided with Shijushin's fist, confronting him head-on. The sound of metal colliding suddenly erupted from the scene, and the horrific aftermath of the battle rippled around. The spectators who were close to the scene began to shake, and the impact was too great. What? Shijushin couldn't believe that this unknown young man in front of him could actually compete with himself, who had used the Taishan magic technique. He was extremely shocked. But soon, Shijushin gritted his teeth and said, "Humph, I want to see how many punches you can take from me." "Haha, this sentence is also for you." Lin Yuan sneered, then took a step forward, followed closely by the shadow behind him. Clang! 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 In this way, the golden Shijushin and Lin Yuan, who was at full strength, started a fierce confrontation. The scene was so huge that it was difficult to distinguish the winner or loser for a while. However, anyone with a discerning eye can see that Shijushin is at a disadvantage. If this continues, Shijushin will lose. At this time, on the high seat, Shihan, Taishan's magical power is nothing more than this. Seeing this, Ximan Fenjiun took the opportunity to add insult to injury. "Humph, Ximan Fenjiun, stop talking sarcastically. Do you want to compete with me?" Shihan said coldly. He. Ximan Fenjiun glanced at Shihan and said calmly, "There are only 100 Taishan magical skills. Shihan, as far as I know, you can use Taishan magical skills once. After one time, your body will explode. Are you sure you want to do it with me? Fight if you want." "What nonsense," Shihan said coldly, "with you buried with me, my death will be considered glorious." "Brother Shi, head of the Ximan family, calm down and say what you have to say." "Why get angry at this time?" Wang Kongyun opened his mouth to smooth things over. "I'll give Master Wang some face." He thought that Shijushin could shine in the martial arts competition of hundreds of sects and even win the first place by relying on the magical power of Mount Tai. Everyone at the scene obviously knew Jujue's name, and they all looked at Lin Yuan in disbelief. Shihan nodded. Although he didn't say anything, there was a flash of disappointment in his eyes. The battle between Shijushin and Lin Yuan continued, and everyone at the scene watched the contest between the two intently. How is it possible? Jujweza is an old antique who has been practicing for hundreds of years. Jujweza. I am the land of Zen, surrender. After about 10 minutes, Shijushin finally couldn't hold it anymore, and his huge body fell to the ground, sending up dust all over the sky. Admit defeat. Wan Konggyun disappeared to comfort him, and then said, Brother Shi, how sure do you think Shijushin is of winning? Okay, Brother Shi, don't be angry. When the scene became calm and the dust dispersed, Shijushin had returned to his original appearance. Original. Just in time for Wan Konggyun to smooth things over, Ximan Fengyun walked down the steps. Clang. Seeing his grandson lying on the ground, Shi Huhan couldn't sit still. He hurriedly appeared in front of Shijushin and breathed a sigh of relief when he found that his grandson was just unconscious. Anyway, Shi Huhan only has one chance to use the Taishan magic skill, so why should he hit the muzzle? Chi Wuxiu really is so strong as Jujweza. Clang. Mentioning this matter, Shi Huhan shook his head and said, hey, no more than 20%. However, if the user is severely injured during this period, resulting in coma or death, Taishan magic will dissipate on its own. Humph, you're a turtle. The old poison deep in the clouds and mist, Jujweza. Ximan Fengyun understood that Shi Huhan was really strong, and even if he was at the peak of his foundation building, he would not be easy to mess with. Turn around. Shi Huhan stared at Lin Yuan and said angrily, Jujweza, you are such a shameless old man, you actually signed up to participate in the 100-sex martial arts competition. How can you bully the younger generations of geniuses? You have the guts to compete with me. Ximan Fengyun was not absolutely sure, so naturally he did not want to fight Shi Huhan. But Shi Huhan never expected that his grandson would not even be able to enter the top 10, and would end up in the top 20. Because Shi Huhan, who used the Taishan magic skill, is a complete lunatic. Wan Konggyun sighed with emotion, and then said, Brother Shi, there is no need to be sad. After all, Jujweza is a master of the same era as us. It is not shameful for your grandson to lose to him. The young man in front of me turned out to be a peer who shocked the ancient martial arts world. Clang. Shi Huhan glanced at Ximan Fengyun and snorted disdainfully. If you don't take the initiative to put away the Taishan magic skill, it can last for 1 or 2 hours. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 536. No wonder the poisonous mist that Lin Yuan emitted before is very similar to Mr. Mo in the depths of the cloud. It turns out that he is Mr. Mo's master. The old poisonous creature deep in the clouds and mist is an old monster from the same era as the ones on the high seat. Shijushin was unlucky. He was chosen by lot, it's sad. Otherwise, with the power of Mount Tai, Shijushin would definitely be in the top 10. He might even have a chance to win the first place and compete with Wudan King Yefozawuji. I have long heard that Jujweza, who is deep in the clouds and mists, has practiced a magical martial arts that can rejuvenate his youth. I never believed it before, but I didn't expect it to be true. Something's wrong. Isn't Jujweza an ancient warrior? When did he give up his true energy and switch to spiritual energy? Everyone in the audience was talking a lot, and they all looked at Lin Yuan in disbelief. Haha, if I participate in the 100-sex martial arts competition, I expect that my identity will be exposed. At this time, Lin Yuan dispersed the black mist shadow behind him, put away his huge momentum, his eyes fell on Shi Huhan, and smiled softly, Brother Shi, I haven't seen you for 10 or 20 years, but your temper is still the same angry. Cut the nonsense. Shi Huhan ordered the disciples in the Zen land to take away Shijushin, then stared at Lin Yuan and said in a deep voice, "Old poisonous man, you hide your identity and bully the young genius, isn't it too much? Brother Shi, how do you say this?" Lin Yuan smiled and said, "Look at me, I am only a teenager now, and my bone age is younger than your grandson. Who is bullying whom?" Lin Yuan's method is easier to identify. No matter how much he hides, his identity will be exposed as long as he shows a little bit of strength. But since Lin Yuan dared to participate in the 100-sex martial arts competition, he must have a trump card. Even if it was exposed, it would be fine, but it would be very troublesome. So before, he didn't want others to know his true identity, but now that he has been discovered, there is no need to deny it. "Old man, you fart." When Shi Han heard this, he said angrily, "You are so damn old, you are hundreds of years old, you are just pretending to be young. Brother Shi, please speak politely. Don't think that I am really afraid of you." Lin Yuan said coldly, "Many people here must know the martial arts I practice. Now I am a 14-year-old boy. Regardless of my appearance or bone age, I fully meet the requirements for contestants in the 100-sex martial arts competition. Besides, now I have given up my majestic energy and become a cultivator." Lin Yuan continued, "Zhenqi and spiritual energy cannot coexist. I am practicing from scratch, and I have not used the vast sea of Zhenqi. With my current status and cultivation, why shouldn't I participate in the 100-sex martial arts competition?" Lin Yuan asked. When Shi Han heard these words, he immediately stopped talking and didn't know how to refute. "Haha, I think what the old poisoner said makes sense. If he signed up to participate in the 100-sex martial arts competition just to regain his youth, it would indeed be a bit bullying." At this time, Ximen Fenjiun said, "However, since he gave up his true energy and defeated Shi Jushin through cultivation methods, I don't think the old poison should be deprived of his qualifications. The master of the Ximen family is right." When Wan Konggyun heard Ximen Fenjiun's words, he nodded and said, "Lin Yuan is a Jujuezi, but he is not a Jujuezi. He is qualified to compete with a new identity and a new system. Ba, let the game continue." Abbot Yuantong clasped his hands together and urged, obviously agreeing with what Ximen Fenjiun and Wan Konggyun said. Snort. "Old poison, even if you are allowed to compete, you may not be able to become the first place. You can really do it if you give up your true energy. Ha ha ha, in this year's 100-sex martial arts competition, there are as many strong men as the clouds, Wudane Wanjai and Buddhist disciples without foundation. Who is not an unprecedented genius? You just wait to be defeated." Shi Han snorted coldly, but did not continue to make trouble and jumped back to the high seat. As for Lin Yuan, he smiled and slowly left the competition site. Before leaving, he gave Su Yang a somewhat thoughtful look. "Su Yang, 50 miles away from Wudang ancient town, see you at the tavern." Soul transmission. Before Lin Yuan left, he left a message to Su Yang through soul transmission. Su Yang frowned slightly, his eyes full of doubts. "What do you mean? He and I have a deep hatred. What does he want to do when he asks me to meet?" Su Yang was puzzled. This person, Old Poison, once participated in the destruction of the Kunlun Su family, and poisoned Su Shenbing to lose all his power, and even affected my mother and the last member of the Su family. Later, he came forward to force Su Yang to hand over his cultivation skills and wanted to kill Su Yang. If Zhao hadn't appeared at the critical moment, Su Yang would have been gone. It can be said that the hatred between him and the old poison is as deep as the sea. In this case, why did the old poisonous man want to meet with him? Is there any conspiracy? No matter what, with his strength, he will not be my opponent. I will take Ari to take a look, just in case." Su Yang raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth and said to himself, "Even if he has a backup plan, I'm not afraid." 50 miles outside the ancient town, it is also within the scope of Liudang. It is covered by the chain formation. Below nascent soul, I am invincible. With this thought in his mind, Su Yang responded and planned to follow him over to take a look. Yu, go find your mother. Dad has some things to deal with, and it's inconvenient to take you with him at this time. Su Yang looked at Su Yu beside him and said softly. Okay. Su Yu was very obedient, nodded and agreed, then went to the high seat and stood next to Qian Shangxiu. Qian Shangxiu glanced at Su Yang, as if asking what Su Yang was going to do. I'm going to have a chat with Old Poison, Su Yang's soul said. Don't worry, I will take Ali with me. Qian Shangxiu nodded lightly. He was worried at first, but when he heard that Ali was also going, he felt relieved. Ari had fought against Ximen Fenjiun before, and Qian Shangxiu knew that Ari was very powerful. As long as Ali is here, no one can do anything to Su Yang. Young Master Wang, Brother Mugu, you can watch the game here. I'll be back soon. Ari, come with me. Just like that, Su Yang and Ali disappeared and quickly followed Lin Yuan's footsteps. What are you doing, young Master Su? Zhang Magu asked in confusion as he watched Su Yang and Ali leave. Do you even need to ask? Wang Fugui whispered, you can't bring children. It's inconvenient for Yu to be there. Based on my understanding of young Master Su, he must have taken Ali back to his room. He, Brother Magu, do you understand? I understand. As expected of young Master Su, he can be so interested in watching a game. Zhang Magu suddenly realized and couldn't help but say. What is this? Wang Fugui boasted, young Master Su has been in the club for many years. He can't finish talking about his romantic affairs for 3 days and 3 nights. Brother Magu, if you want to hear it, treat me to dinner tonight. You will have wine and food, and I will have young Master Su. It's a story, we just got drunk and stopped. Haha, okay, I like to listen to gossip. Zhang Magu's eyes suddenly lit up, looking very interested. At the same time, the on-site referee announced that the winner just now was Lin Yuan, and then invited the 2 contestants for the next game. I would like to invite Mr. Mo Deo from Deep Cloud and Mist, as well as Du Fei Yang from the Du family in Deep City. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 537. The game is still going on, but Su Yang has already left the scene with Ali. Everyone didn't pay attention to Su Yang, and all their eyes were on the ring on the left. Since Shi Jushin destroyed the middle arena in the last competition, the competition venue was changed to another arena. Master Mo Deo is very good. During the resurrection competition, his poisonous skills scared away many contestants. The Du family in Shenzhen is one of the most powerful families in the ancient martial arts world. They have a very strange martial art that can invite souls to take over and enhance their own strength. Speaking of Mr. Mo Deo, no wonder he would take the initiative to admit defeat in the previous competition. Damn, Lin Yuan is also on the 7th track. When the apprentice meets the master, what a slap. I wonder if Du Fei Yang has understood the essence of the Du family's martial arts. This match is worth watching. Everyone in the audience was talking a lot and waiting to watch the game attentively. No one noticed that Su Yang left the scene. At this time, on the high seat, there was a little old man with a broken arm, staring angrily in the direction Lin Yuan left, his eyes filled with murderous intent. He comes from Fukun Mountain and has the strongest foundation in Fukun Mountain. His name is Su Yufeng, and the world calls him the layman of Fukun Mountain. He has entered the realm of the land warrior god. Old Poison. 30 years ago, because of a disagreement, you secretly poisoned me. If I hadn't reacted quickly enough and cut off the poisoned arm, I would have been a pile of bones. Su Yufeng, a layman from Fukun Mountain, gritted his teeth and said secretly, the world is reincarnated, Old Poison. I know that every 60 years, you will rejuvenate and become a child again. That will be your weakest time. I've searched everywhere over the years, but I haven't found any trace of you. He, I didn't expect you to take the initiative to appear in front of me. The day before yesterday, I vaguely noticed that Lin Yuan was a little familiar, but who knew it was really you? Su Yufeng sneered and said, in that case, old poisoner, don't blame me for taking advantage of others' danger. I don't need to follow the rules and morality for a despicable villain like you who kills people like crazy. With this thought in his mind, Su Yufeng stood up and left the scene with an excuse. Su Jushi, what are you going to do? Don't be impulsive. Peace is the most important thing in everything. Wang Kongyun looked at Su Yufeng's back and advised him. However, Su Yufeng ignored it, his figure flickered and quickly disappeared. The few old guys on the high seats all knew about the grudge between Su Yufeng and the old poisonous man, but no one stopped them. They all sat upright and ignored the matter. Master Wang, let him go. Only Ximen Fengyun spoke, and said with a soft smile, every wrong has its owner, and every debt has its owner. This tone has been held by the layman Su for decades. The old poisonous person has dispersed his true energy and changed his mind to cultivation. He has not yet succeeded in building the foundation. It is the purpose of revenge. When the time comes, it's useless for you to stop me. Haha, Abbot Yuan Tong, the reason why I brought this up is not because of Mount Bodhi and Mount Wuodang. At this moment, an old man with a broken arm, carrying a huge rage, suddenly landed in front of Lin Yuan and said coldly. But the old poisonous man is now called Lin Yuan, and he is a contestant in the 100 sex martial arts competition. If something unexpected happens in Wuodang, Mr. Mo Dao also mobilized the poisonous mist he had carefully cultivated, and the aura on his body was heart-stopping. Haha, since Abbot Yuan Tong has spoken, let's not mention this matter again. Let's just pretend we didn't see it, Ximen Fengyun said with a smile. Wuodang ancient town, 50 miles away, a tavern. But, Master Wang, you have seen the strength of old poison. Once a cultivator enters the foundation building, he can be compared to the land warrior god. Half step to build the foundation. Su Yang and Ali also arrived and were about to walk over to talk to Lin Yuan. Among them, Charity Master Tai said in an indifferent tone, you have to bear the consequences of the evil you sow. The old poisonous man acted perversely and domineeringly before, and now he is being sought for revenge. It is his own fault. As for Lao poison, half-step foundation building is only one step away from real foundation building. Do you think Taoist priest Wang Ye has a chance of winning when he meets Lao poison? Ximen Fengyun asked with a smile. Thanks to the head of the Ximen family, I have recovered a long time ago, Du Kun responded coldly, full of hostility towards Ximen Fengyun. But, if there is a cause, there must be an effect. The cycle of cause and effect is determined by the way of heaven. Back then, Ximen Fengyun wanted to take over the Du family, but was rejected by Du Kun. As a result, he injured Du Kun on the pretext of a fight. Naturally, Du Kun could not forget this incident. Du Feiyang invited two ancestors out on the spot. Their bodies were filled with black mist, their faces were ferocious, and their auras increased several times. Ximen Fengyun doesn't take this kind of state seriously, but he is not sure whether his two descendants, Ximen Longjian and Ximen Huxiao, can beat the old poison. After all, even Shi Jushin, who has used the Taishan magic skill, has failed. Defeated. He hopes that the genius of Bodhi Mountain will win the championship, and naturally he doesn't want the old poison to continue participating in the 100 sex martial arts competition, which can reduce some of the risks. Ximen Fengyun smiled and said, Taishan Shi Jushin has been eliminated. This year's finals of the 100 sex martial arts competition will surely be a wonderful showdown between Wuodang Wang Ye and Fozawuji. The first place will definitely be between these two geniuses. For Ximen Fengyun to say this, it was as if he was inciting everyone to sit idly by and ignore him. This was not in line with his image as an enlightened monk, and Abbot Yuantong was naturally displeased. At this moment, almsgiver Ximen, why do you attribute the cause and effect to the poor monk? It was obviously you who suggested this. Abbot Yuantong instantly felt that he had been deceived. Seeing this, Ximen Fenjiun raised a smile on his lips, and then looked away. In the arena, the competition has already begun. Abbot Yuantong recited the Buddha's name incomprehensibly. On the surface, he appeared to be solemn, but in reality he was thinking about the Buddha's disciples. Ximen Fenjiun then said, "Let Su Yufeng kill the old poisonous creature to take revenge. If the old poisonous creature dies, wouldn't the geniuses of all our forces have an extra chance of winning?" While Wang Kongyun was talking, Ximen Fenjiun interrupted, "Master Wang, in the situation just now, it is inconvenient for us to deprive the old poisonous person of his qualification to participate in the competition. After all, the old poisonous person has changed his identity and his bone age meets the requirements. In addition, he has returned to youth this time. He has started over and become a cultivator. If he is refused to participate, our major forces will be criticized." After Ximen Fenjiun made it clear, several old guys on the scene nodded immediately. Ximen Fenjiun smiled softly and did not continue the topic. Instead, he glanced at Du Kun, who was sitting on the edge, and asked with a smile, "Master Du, has your injury recovered after so long? Ximen Donor is really good at joking, and the two geniuses of your Ximen family are also very good, especially Ximen Longian, who has never used his full strength so far." Abbot Yuantong said calmly. "Old poison, I have been waiting for 30 years and finally found the opportunity. Today is the day you die." Lin Yuan has arrived and is sitting at the wine table outside, pouring himself a drink. Master Tai's words make sense at the edge. Du Kun, who had been sitting cross-legged and meditating without speaking, agreed. "Clan Master Wang is a smart man. I must have guessed that since Clan Master Wang wants me to be a villain, then I will expose the matter." Wang Kongyun seemed to have thought of something and asked doubtfully, "Master Ximen, what do you mean by this?" Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 538. Lin Yuan sat on a chair and saw the angry Fukunshan layman. He didn't show a trace of nervousness, but poured himself wine in a leisurely manner. Subsequently, Lin Yuan picked up the chopsticks, picked up a piece of beef, chewed it in 2 mouthfuls, and drank the wine in the glass. Shijushin from the place of Zen, after he used the Taishan magic, it was so powerful that it was beyond my expectation. This battle was very tiring. Now I feel comfortable drinking and eating meat. Lin Yuan looks only 14 or 15 years old, but in fact he is an antique who has lived for hundreds of years. He gives people a young and mature feeling, but his posture is not artificial at all. Su Yufeng next to him calmed down when he saw that Lin Yuan was confident. He was worried that the old poisonous man was hiding his tricks, so he stood there with a solemn expression, staring at Lin Yuan, and did not take action rashly. "Little friend Su Yang, how about we talk about things between us for a little while and give me some time to deal with personal matters?" Lin Yuan suddenly became polite, looked at Su Yang and smiled softly. "Ken." Su Yang nodded, then took Ali and strode towards Lin Yuan, sat down at the wine table next to him and watched what happened. He had already figured out that this one-armed old man who suddenly appeared had a grudge against Lin Yuan. And this one-armed old man is very powerful. He has surpassed the peak of the Shen zone. The qi in his body has undergone a qualitative change. He must be the land martial god. But Lin Yuan has not yet succeeded in building the foundation. Logically speaking, he cannot be the opponent of the one-armed old man. Su Yang wanted to see what Lin Yuan's methods were and how he would deal with the land warrior god's revenge. As for the grudge between himself and Lin Yuan's purpose of meeting him, haha, it wouldn't be too late to put an end to it later. Haha, okay, then little friend Su Yang, Please wait patiently for a while. Lin Yuan smiled politely again, then his eyes fell on the one-armed old man, and said calmly, Jushi Su, you are still as irritable as before. If you don't change your temper, you will suffer a loss sooner or later. Snort. Su Yufeng met Lin Yuan's gaze and snorted coldly, old poisonous guy, I have a bad temper. Damn it! How could such words come out of your mouth? Do you still remember my arm? You poisoned my arm if I disagreed with you, and now you say I have a bad temper. Master Su, don't get angry. Peace is the most important thing in everything. Lin Yuan first poured 2 glasses of wine, then made an invitation gesture, and smiled softly, sit down and have a glass of wine. Let's talk slowly. If you have anything to say, talk about it. He. Su Yufeng sneered and said, Old poisoner, 30 years ago, we had a quarrel, and that's what you told me after we started fighting. But in the end, you damn girl actually poisoned the wine. If I hadn't acted quickly enough and cut off my arm in time, I would have been poisoned to death by you. Every time I learn a lesson, do you think I would still drink with you? Lin Yuan sneered and said, there is another person in the field today. I think Su Jushi also knows him. Su Yang, a descendant of the Su family, and his protector. This protector is not simple. I heard that he can compete with Ximen Fenjian. Come on, if you put it this way, even if you and I can't do anything to Su Yang together, he has the absolute right to speak. Su Jushi, you can't blame me entirely for what happened back then. If you hadn't been talking nonsense, I would have poisoned you. Lin Yuan looked at Su Yufeng and said calmly. What? Unexpectedly, when Su Yufeng heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up. He looked at the empty wine glass and swallowed 2 mouthfuls of saliva involuntarily. Lin Yuan smiled softly, and then said, about 30 years ago, I was at my peak, married a wife, and my wife gave birth to a child for me. Su Yufeng asked with a sneer, and then sneered, old poisonous creature, if you use such dirty tricks with me, I will be a fool if I drink with you again. Now that such a good opportunity is in front of us, Mr. Su, why don't we join forces and kill the old poisonous creature, you take your revenge, and I take my revenge. Fact. Haha, if you don't say it, then I will say it for you. When Su Yufeng heard this, his expression was slightly embarrassed, as if he was embarrassed to speak. But soon, he came to his senses and said in a cold voice, old poisonous man, go to hell, I'm here to settle a score with you today, and I will end the feud with you today. At this point, Lin Yuan was obviously very angry, and continued, Su Jushi even said with a smile that my son and I have the same breast milk, and when we grow up, we can be like brothers. He also said, if I drink my wife's milk, then my wife is my mother, after all, she is my mother if she has breasts. In my opinion, this tavern is the best tavern within 100 miles of Wuodang. Zuyeking is brewed by the boss himself. What I drink is Zuyeking, the treasure of the store. There is only 1 jar in total. I spent a lot of money and the boss gave it to me. Pour a pot. Lin Yuan gritted his teeth and said, little friend Su Yang, you are the judge of the truth. Many guests are present. I hear these words. How can I not be angry? Su Yang nodded, then said, however, if I want to take revenge, there is no need to join forces with you, and I can tell you for sure that the old poison will die today, but I want to know what interesting things happened between you. Why don't you want to mention it? Of course, the reason why he was polite was not because of Su Yang's identity or his strength, but because of Ali's presence. If you don't drink it, I'll drink it all. I'm telling the truth. After hearing this, Su Yufeng was obviously guilty and lacked confidence. When Ari and Ximen Fenjian fought, Su Yufeng was at the scene, and he clearly knew how powerful Ari was. At the banquet, Master Su drank too much and was talking eloquently. He suddenly mentioned the martial arts I practiced. He said that my martial arts would rejuvenate his youth every few decades. He also asked me when the next rejuvenation would be and if it would happen. Grab some milk from my son. More than 100 years ago, he and Ximen Fenjiun broke into the Kunlun Su family. There is a blood feud between you. Lin Yuan gently shook the wine bottle in his hand, filled the 2 wine glasses again, and said with a smile, "Jushi Su, do you want to have a taste?" Su Yufeng said calmly, "It doesn't matter what I said. You must already know that this Lin Yuan is the old poison." Su Yufeng glanced at Su Yang, then nodded to Su Yang in a rather polite tone. "How about this, let him be a witness today. You tell what happened back then, and let little friend Su Yang comment on whether I should poison you or not. Jushi Su, I don't mind if you seek revenge from me. Why don't you just spread the matter? It's just idle time anyway," Lin Yuan said with a playful smile. Su Yufeng continued, "But I am not among those who destroyed the Kunlun Su family. Su Yufeng's biggest hobby in his life was drinking. He usually drank every day in Fukun Mountain. When he learned that what Lin Yuan drank was century-old bamboo leaf green, the alcohol bug was instantly hooked. I am very happy that when I put on the full moon wine table, I invited people from various famous mountains, including Su Yufeng, a layman from Fukun Mountain. Reverend Su, right? I'm curious, what did you say back then?" At this time, Su Yang smiled softly. "Sounds good. Master Su." Lin Yuan showed a smile, then drank the 2 glasses of wine on the table one by one, and said, "Tisk, tisk, the century-old bamboo leaves are green, it tastes good." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 539. Damn it. Also, this layman Su has such a fresh and refined mind. Ahem. Su Yang touched the bridge of his nose in embarrassment, and then said, "Well, let's talk about it, Master Su, you've gone too far in joking. Old poisonous creature, shut up." Su Yufeng gritted his teeth and said, "I was just drinking too much at the time, and that's why I said such words indiscriminately. But you were too cruel. You actually wanted to poison me to death. I must settle this debt with you today." "When did I want to poison you?" Lin Yuan asked. "Humph, I still want to make excuses. You poisoned me on the spot. You also said that the poison would soon spread from my arms to my whole body. Within half a quarter of an hour, I would be dead." Su Yufeng sneered, "Haha, but it's a pity that I reacted very quickly and cut off my arm in the next second, making your wish come true." Having said this, Su Yufeng was even a little smug, feeling very proud of his smart move. "Why?" Unexpectedly, Lin Yuan sighed, and then said, "I was just scaring you. How could I poison my son's full moon wine and kill him? Actually, you were not poisoned at all, it was just a psychological effect." Well. When Su Yufeng heard this, the smile on his face suddenly froze, and his expression was a little stunned. "Originally, I just wanted to fool you and make you worry. I'll explain it to you later. Let's just laugh it off and let the matter be over." Lin Yuan said in a heart-wrenching tone, "Who would have thought that you could move so fast, and before I could react, you cut off your arm directly. Master Su, you can't blame me for this. If you do, blame your strength strong, too fast." When Su Yufeng heard this, he couldn't hold himself any longer. He immediately beat his chest and felt regretful. "Over the years, I have always felt lucky for my speed 30 years ago, and lucky to have saved my life. But now it seems that I am the stupid one, I hate it." Turning around, Su Yufeng's eyes fell on Lin Yuan, and he said with a complicated expression, "Old poisonous creature, Su Yufeng, have never owed anything to anyone in my life. I did make some rude remarks back then, which made you embarrassed in front of many guests, but by cutting off this arm, I have something to do with you. Let's just wipe out our grudges." After saying that, Su Yufeng turned around and left. "Hey, Master Su." Lin Yuan sighed, made an invitation gesture again, and said, "You and I have known each other for hundreds of years, and we are both approaching the end of our lives. 30 years later, we are still alive. This is already the best thing. The result is over, don't mention the past things again, come on, sit down and have a drink." This. Su Yufeng was very moved. He didn't expect Lin Yuan to be so generous. Not only did he not care about himself, he also took the initiative to invite him to drink. "Jushi Su, this is a century-old bamboo with green leaves, soft and mellow cotton," Lin Yuan said with a smile. "Good." It was hard to deny the warm hospitality, and Su Yufeng was really greedy for wine, so he sat down and drank with Lin Yuan. "Huh? This wine, old poison, I'll fuck you male gobe, ugh." Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished drinking, Su Yufeng's face changed drastically and he stared at Lin Yuan angrily. However, before he finished speaking, he fell to the ground and completely lost consciousness. Bang bang bang. At this moment, Su Yang, who was watching the show next to him, couldn't help but clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Old poisonous guy, I admire him, he makes people stunned. Haha, it's just a small trick, not worth mentioning." Lin Yuan picked up the jug, walked around Su Yufeng, who was in a moderate coma, strode over, sat opposite Su Yang, and smiled softly, "Little friend Su Yang, why don't we have a drink too, and let the grudges disappear?" with a smile. "I don't dare drink your wine." Su Yang narrowed his eyes slightly and stared at Lin Yuan, his eyes gradually became colder, and he said in a deep voice, "I have finished watching the show that I should watch. I thought that this layman Su could force out your trump card. Who knew he was a stick? Now it seems that I am the only one who can do it myself." As soon as he finished speaking, Su Yang's whole body emitted a huge wave of spiritual energy. As for Ali, he stood behind Su Yang, just in case. Su Yang wanted to test Lin Yuan's depth and see if Lin Yuan could force himself to use his full strength. If possible, she would take this opportunity to advance to foundation building, so before coming, Su Yang reminded her not to interfere unless it was absolutely necessary. "Little friend Su Yang, wait a moment." Facing Su Yang in a fighting state, Lin Yuan did not mobilize the spiritual energy in his body, nor did he use the terrifying poisonous mist. Instead, he smiled softly and said, "I asked you out because I want to tell you something. This matter is important to you, it's important to you." When Su Yang heard this, he dispersed the spiritual energy around him and said in a cold voice, "Old poison, I am not the stick of Master Su. You'd better not lie to me, otherwise I will kill you first, then kill Mo Deo, and flatten the deep clouds place. Little friend Su Yang, calm down." Lin Yuan's eyes fell on Su Yang, and he smiled softly, "To be honest, you and I don't have any deep hatred, right?" He. Joke. Su Yang said coldly, "More than 100 years ago, you participated in the destruction of Kunlun. More than 20 years ago, you poisoned my father. Some time ago, you chased me to southern Xinjiang and almost killed me. Now you tell me that there is no deep hatred between us, old poisonous creature, do you think I look like a fool?" Little friend Su Yang, I did do the 3 things you mentioned, but this was not my original intention. Lin Yuan looked at Su Yang, shook his head and said, "In the early years, your great-great-grandfather Suwuji was so powerful that I was summoned and given guidance by him. Your great-grandfather is not as good to me as he is to Ximen Fenjian, but he is still pretty good. He told me a lot about ancient martial arts and cultivation. How could I do anything to disgrace the Su family?" Lin Yuan asked back, and then said, "Little friend Su Yang, I just said that I came to you to tell you something very important. Aren't you curious about what it is?" Snored. Su Yang stared at Lin Yuan and said calmly, "If you have something to say, just say it. Don't hesitate. You don't have much time left." It wasn't that Su Yang didn't kill Lin Yuan, but that he had doubts. Since Lin Yuan knew Ali's methods, why did he ask for a meeting with him? Even if he doesn't know Su Yang's strength, isn't he afraid that Ali will kill him? But he still did it. Did he really have something to say? Thinking of this, Su Yang didn't rush to take action. "Little friend Su Yang, you are a smart man, so I won't try to sell things to you." Lin Yuan's eyes fell on Su Yang, and then he said seriously, "The matter I want to talk about has something to do with your great-grandfather Su Wuzi. Over the years, Su Wuji disappeared and never appeared again. Many people thought that he was dead or had set foot on the ancient road in the starry sky, but that was not the case. He did not leave the earth, nor did he die. I know his whereabouts. Now, he is." Immediately afterwards, Lin Yuan threw out a very important message. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 540. Lin Yuan suddenly lengthened his voice, looked at Su Yang and smiled, then uttered 3 words. Wuodane Mountain. After saying that, Lin Yuan stopped talking and stared at Su Yang, wanting to see Su Yang's reaction. Wuodane Mountain. Grandpa Su Wuzi is in Wuodane Mountain now? Impossible. I have taken control of the Wuodane chain formation. I can feel every plant and tree here. If Grandpa Tai is really in Wuodane, how could I not notice it? Old poison. After a brief absence, Su Yang met the old poisonous man's gaze and said coldly, "Do you think I will believe what you say? You must be talking nonsense when you say this. You are just trying to delay time." "Haha, little friend Su Yang, I said Senior Su Wuji is in Wuodane, so he is." Lin Yuan smiled softly and said, "And this is also a good proof. After the 100 sex martial arts competition is over, the ancient martial arts pattern will change. There will be a big chaos by then. If nothing happens, Wan Konggyun, the leader of the Tianji sect, will definitely invite Senior Su Wuji, just wait and see." "You mean, Wan Konggyun also knows that my great-grandfather is in Wuodane?" Su Yang asked doubtfully. "If that was the case, he could ask Wan Konggyun now to find out. After all, he controls Wuodane's chain formation. As long as he makes it clear, Wan Konggyun will definitely know everything about him." "He does not know." Lin Yuan smiled, and then said enigmatically, "But he can invite Senior Su Wuzi, and he doesn't know who he invites." "Then how did you know?" Su Yang asked with a frown. "Haha, it's inconvenient to reveal this." Lin Yuan smiled softly and said, "Little friend Su Yang, I have my own secret, and there is no need to tell you this." Snored. Su Yang snorted coldly, and then asked, "You said that there will be a great chaos in Wuodane Mountain on the day when the 100 sex martial arts competition ends. How can you say this? Could it be that the major forces in the ancient martial arts world will not succumb to the 100 sex martial arts competition? One person, or several forces headed by Ximen Fengyun, want to cause trouble?" "Neither." Lin Yuan shook his head and said, "The person who ranks first in the 100 sex martial arts competition this year will become the leader of the Ancient Martial Arts Alliance. This was decided more than 100 years ago, and it was not a hot idea of a few old guys in the ancient martial arts world. Actually, the person who said these words is a very powerful person. That person is even stronger than Su Wuji. No, he should be able to crush Su Wuji. The two of them are not at the same level. It's just that in the ancient martial arts world, information about him is taboo. Everyone is so taboo that they dare not mention it." Lin Yuan continued, "Although he is dead now, if he stays, no one dares to disobey him." "Continue," Su Yang asked seriously. Lin Yuan looked at Su Yang, who had a shocked face, and smiled softly. As for Ximen Fenjian, as soon as a cultivator enters foundation establishment, he is equivalent to a terrestrial martial god. The 10 major ancient clans send a foundation establishment disciple, who is a superior existence to the ancient warriors. But more than 100 years ago, your great-grandfather was born. He not only visited the tops of famous mountains, but also visited the 10 ancient tribes. It is said that the harvest was not small, and a lot of supplies for cultivation were looted. Hoarding in Kunlun Mountains. Lin Yuan explained, at the beginning, the pre-Qin Chi practitioners died and surrendered. In short, all the powerful cultivators on the earth have disappeared. The remaining cultivators are only at the peak of foundation building. Top 10 ancient tribes. Lin Yuan said sternly, although our ancient martial arts world is complex, we are still united. I just don't know if the famous mountains can defeat the 10 clans if they join forces. Having said this, Lin Yuan looked at Su Yang and smiled softly. Ximen Fenjian has now reached the pinnacle of foundation building. He must have used a lot of resources stolen by Senior Suwuji. Top 10 ancient tribes. A person more powerful than Grandpa, can he compete with the way of heaven? More than 100 years ago, the great man who reached the sky made a 3-part agreement with the 10 ancient tribes, prohibiting them from entering the world within a certain period of time. Who could this person be? Lin Yuan explained, they are not good men and women. Throughout the ages, although they are rarely born, they are the first to enjoy the good things in the world. The top 10 ancient clans also know that the ancient martial arts world will undergo changes. They have suppressed the ancient martial arts world for so long, how can they let the ancient martial arts world change easily? Lin Yuan continued, the 10 ancient tribes live in seclusion in the mountains, and there are regulations that do not allow disciples to be born. What they occupy is only a little known hill. They never compete with the ancient martial arts master for anything. Over time, there will be no one in the world. Got the news about the 10 ancient clans? Su Yang secretly guessed, then looked at Lin Yuan, wondering, in this case, how could there be a chaos after the 100 sects meeting Wuodang? Who dares to make trouble in Wuodang? Haha, I have to admit that Ximen Fenjian has made great efforts in recent years and has won over many forces in the ancient martial arts world. However, the truly powerful sects and families have not surrendered to him, such as the land of Fengchen, the mountains and the sea, and our Yunwu deep down. There are the Zhang family in Fenyang, the Du family in Shenzhen, Mount Imei, Mount Bodhi. Lin Yuan sighed and said, unfortunately, when the 100 sects martial arts competition ends, it is the day when they can go out at will. These surviving people are also extremely rare. They died, were injured, and only a few survived to continue their incense and become the top 10 ancient clans. When Lin Yuan heard this, he said with a solemn expression, in the world, there is no single largest family in the ancient martial arts world. Lin Yuan said solemnly, based on what I know about them, they will definitely appear. But then, he smiled softly and said, there is no need to mention my matter. In short, the 10 ancient clans are not indifferent to fame and fortune, and they live in seclusion. They just do not dare to be born because of an agreement. Lin Yuan sneered and said, these forces are not as simple as they appear. Even Ximen Fenjian does not dare to make mistakes. Ancient tribe. Because his methods are unpredictable and can even compete with the way of heaven. Even if he leaves a backup at random, he can level the entire ancient martial arts world. After hearing this, Su Yang frowned deeply. These 10 ancient clans are all descendants of pre-Qin Chi refiners and have been passed down for thousands of years. Compared with the 10 major ancient clans, the ancient martial arts master is insignificant, because the people of the ancient clan are all cultivators. Lin Yuan broke the news again. If Gyawu declines, the 10 tribes will stand idly by and watch, but if Gyawu becomes stronger, they will definitely take action to stop it, and a bloody battle will inevitably occur. He. What old Poison said is not false. Perhaps this person is the master of the formation that arranged the soul-locking formation and the 5 elements chain formation. Perhaps you don't know that before your great-grandfather and that big man who reached the sky appeared, there were very few land martial gods in the ancient martial arts world. It is only in recent years that major forces have established themselves in the realm of land martial gods. Lin Yuan gritted his teeth and said, I have been fortunate enough to see the disciples of the ancient tribe with arrogant attitude. When they came to the depths of my clouds, they regarded themselves as their ancestors. They drank the fine wines in the mountains and used the beauties as they pleased. I showed a little dissatisfaction. I was forced to kneel to the ground by the pressure he released. That was the shame of my life, and I still remember that person's appearance. Su Yang read it silently, then asked, you mean, after the 100 sex martial arts competition, the 10 ancient clans will come to cause trouble? Didn't you say that the 10 ancient clans will not be born? It could be seen that the old poisonous man was really angry, his eyes were red, and he was filled with overwhelming murderous intent.